I was going to come here today and have a short conversation about, the basic idea of our campaign. That if you focus on transparency and you focus on holding people accountable towards improvement, not punishing people. Accountability isn't about punishing people. It's about improving. It's about finding out what went wrong, how to mitigate problems, and how to solve problems, and how to be better going forward. It's not about punishment. But if you focus on those two things, you automatically get improvement. And then through improvement, you will regain public trust, which is so lacking these days. And then I opened the internet earlier today, and I see that the state legislature is planning on going ahead with a $755 million renovation to their workspace. Now, put aside the fact that it's kind of an absurd amount of money, and they're kind of spending it without much public accountability. Is now the time? We have record unemployment. We still haven't opened up the state. We have no idea what future budgets are going to look like, but we're going to go ahead and do a $755 million renovation. The unemployment department doesn't work. And they're going to go spend $750 million so their workspace is more convenient? There's a mindset problem. It's not even about the money anymore. It's about symbolism. We have to sacrifice, but they're going to get an improved workspace. There's just something fundamentally wrong. There's a disconnect between the legislature and our representatives and the average person who ends up having to pay the bills. They're not the ones paying the bills. They're gone by the time all the bills come due. The side effect of term limits is they don't have to care about what happens in the future. They're gone. And the only way we can hold them accountable, sadly, is to hold their parties accountable. You would, in a sense, have to hold people accountable who didn't do anything wrong. And it's not right. It's kind of creates this whole strange, toxic political world we're living in, where representatives are more inclined to do things to further their short-term political goals rather than solve long-term problems. And often problems aren't actually solvable. It's how do we mitigate them the best we can? And no one's willing to have that discussion. They pretend that if we pass this law, we will solve problems. No, we won't. There's very little evidence that the political class can solve problems. They solve problems for themselves. They help their buddies. They help their special interest groups. And they help those groups who routinely show up at their ballot box. But they don't help the average person. They're not designed to. Complexity has a cost. And that cost is transparency. A political system that is so complex, a regulatory system that is so complex, a legal system that is so complex that you can't look at it and see what's going on is a problem. I had a discussion the other day about why the politics today is so toxic, why we are so divided. And my answer was because we've asked our politicians to be involved in almost every aspect of our lives. And when you do that, you cannot have politicians interject themselves in your lives without it becoming political. If you're asking politicians to pass laws, to pass regulations, to do whatever, it becomes by its very nature political. And so the only way to depoliticize our culture is to remove the importance of the political process. And you only do that with simplification. Doesn't mean you don't do things. We want our potholes filled. We want our clean water. We want fire and police protection. But we don't want them micromanaging our lives. We want good information that we can trust. But we can't trust anything these days because nothing's transparent. And you can't trust what you can't see. We're coming down. It's the last week. I know everybody's tired of listening to politics. I know I am. But sadly, it doesn't stop November 3rd. Because people with connections never stop. The average person just wants to go about their lives. They want to hire people to represent their interests. And sadly, what has happened is the special interests have been hiring people. It's time to change that. It's time to change. It's time to vote for people who will be different. Thank you for your time. Good night. And love everybody.